What's up guys, I am back. Something has finally made me crawl out of the woodwork to start making content again. No doubt you guys have recently seen the hype building up for Ashes of Creation that seemingly came out of nowhere, and a lot of you avid MMORPG players are extremely skeptical. So I wanted to make this video to announce that I too am on the choo-choo hype train for Ashes of Creation now, and I wanted to address some points of skepticism towards the grand scale the game is promising. Firstly, I gotta admit that I wrote off Ashes of Creation pretty early as just another Kickstarter scam. From its launch in May 2017 with the referral bonuses to Kickstarter, I didn't really give it much of a look. And like many others, once Ashes of Creation released a battle royale alongside all of the other battle royales coming out riding that flavor of the month style, I was like, I knew it, scam, and again I didn't really even look into it. Even recently when they put out their pre-alpha gameplay footage and I took a quick glance at it and saw all of those people on the screen just riding around on flying mounts and showing off mounts for like 30 minutes of the footage, the moment those wings popped out, I just noped out of the video. No thanks, another fly everywhere, empty world. At this point, I felt so beaten down by the MMORPG genre with pay to win, daily quest fiestas, and bad infrastructure and bad support. I'd more or less given up on the genre altogether. But then one of my long-standing gaming buddies sent me a message asking me if I'd be interested in Ashes. This friend, who I often agreed with on things, was really pushing Ashes hard on me, so I thought, okay. Maybe there is something more here.
Don't give me hope.
So I finally, very carefully opened up my battered, broken MMO heart and started looking into Ashes with extreme skepticism, assuming, like everyone else, that this is just going to be another scam or another game where the devs were just out of touch and trying to recreate WoW or some horrible sandbox title, but instead I was overwhelmed by every piece of content the game had put out so far. The CEO and the devs were saying all the right things to mend my broken heart, and at first I thought, this is just a bunch of marketing, they're just saying what we want to hear, all that stuff, we've had that before. But what really got me was the Ashes of Creation Discord and the community interaction the devs had. The Q&As where the questions were clearly unscripted, the devs still answered so passionately that they kept accidentally leaking stuff or saying the wrong thing and having to correct it afterwards. It made me believe that this isn't some corporate thing going on. These guys are really gaming nerds. They're trying to bring this game to life. So now I'm at this point where I really like these devs, and you probably do too. And then when I take a look at the game design itself, they are actually addressing issues that the genre has had for the past 10 years head on by redesigning the formula instead of pushing out a reskinned version of the same thing except with gimmick XYZ. So I'm super hyped for Ashes, but you guys are undoubtedly still skeptical. As MMO fans, we've been let down repeatedly over and over again. They promised a lot of features that sound too good to be true, and you are probably worried that they may not be able to deliver on them, and you're wondering why the hype train is suddenly appearing now after Lazy Peon's video. So in this video, I'm not going to go over Ashes of Creation's features. If you want a great overview, I'll put a link in the description to Lazy Peon's video. Instead, I'd like to show you the progress that has been made towards these features promised that is giving content creators like myself, Peon, and thousands of other MMO fans faith that this thing is the real deal. If you check out the Ashes of Creation YouTube channel within the last 4 months, they've been releasing tangible evidence that their game systems are not a pipe dream. Some of the systems are already up and running, and not only that, Phoenix Initiative backers have been allowed onto the service to play and have had their NDAs lifted so long as they don't show video and pictures. And this is all while the game is still presumably 2 years out from launch. So rather than ask you guys to dig through 3 years worth of dev diaries and updates, let me highlight some of the big updates that'll hopefully get you as excited as I am. Firstly, let's highlight the stuff around the large scale combat that has been talked about, 250 versus 250 players or more. Now in these clips we see that after the quote debacle of AOC Apocalypse, the guys at Intrepid reworked the backend to fix desync issues and made it so that their hardware could handle a massive amount of players on their screen, and had this to say about it.
People
were mentioning when they saw, in particular, that video earlier, they're like, well, that's just people running around. What happens when it's people with all their spells and
so,
abilities?
little known
and pets
fact,
and everything?
actually, the most taxing information on the server side is actually movement data.
Yeah.
Because it's something
You're
you are
given point your
constantly
XYZ
doing,
in time.
and it has to be represented to other players in real time.
Every time.
So you know, that is like, I don't know, 85% of the network traffic is really movement position. So it's actually one of the most important components.
Secondly, let's look at the player housing systems they promised. We've been given short glimpses into the freehold systems. There was more in-depth information revealed, but the footage I can't seem to find or show it. So instead we can look and see that the instance housing, buying housing plots, decorating them, and utilizing the freehold systems have already been showing. And players in the Alpha Zero tests have confirmed that. Next, the node progression systems that promised. This is the core of the Ashes creation gameplay. Their whole game is built around these systems. Demonstrated in their live streams, it's been shown that the nodes are already capable of progressing from things like the expedition to the encampment to the village. And we've been shown in depth what it looks like when it happens, as well as how the voting system works and how a mayor can construct buildings and the groups can gather resources to build those buildings, to progress the node and the facilities within the node. Now, Alpha Zero testers also confirming that it seems to be working just as Intrepid was promising. We've also been shown numerous dev diaries on how the devs managed to procedurally generate all of these towns and change the aesthetics of the buildings to match the style of the most contributing races to that node. So even though their promise of such a big world seems too much of a scope, having over 100 nodes with 100 different villages and a bunch of different aesthetics to match the different races, their showing of their procedural technology puts a lot of confidence in the thought that they can easily pull this off, as they're letting the modern game development technology do some of the heavy lifting for them. Changing the racial appearance of structures for them is as simple as toggling something, with the exception of course of some unique racial buildings and structures. So the idea of them being able to grow and manage these nodes is demonstrably doable for the team, while we're still probably about 2 years away from the game even launching. Fourthly, let's take a look at the questing, the combat, and the open world mechanics. In several of the live streams, we've been allowed to watch the devs run through some Alpha Island as well as the Alpha Zero testing areas. Now in this, they've shown their beginning stages of their questing UI interface, the combat with the monsters while exploring the world. We see the gathering systems with mining and chopping are in the game, and while the combat obviously isn't polished, it looks pretty damn functional, already showing off that the classes are there, they have their unique skills working, and the devs have clearly stated that the UI is not even close to its final form and they want to tone down and adjust the flashiness and effects of the combat and polish it. There are ongoing discussions within the community as well about things like active block skills versus passive block skills and the sorts. Everyone knows that combat is the core of any great MMORPG, but they seemed determined to get it right. From using apocalypse experience to taking feedback seriously, they've already demonstrated how things like circle healing, AoEs, damage spells, and stuff like that is going to be working. A good mix of tab targeting and aim-based combat. And I gotta be honest, this already looks better than some of the games that are released right now.
Okay, here. She does a somersault! It's so awesome! Ah! Sorry, I get really excited.
Next, let's take a look at dungeons and group content. Now we've been shown more or less 4 dungeons that are already in the game through the alpha footage, and the Alpha Zero testers have already revealed a lot of how they work, so I urge you to dig around Reddit and find their reviews. But we've got a mineshaft looking dungeon, some Underdark, an old dwarven keep, and the group play looks pretty good. In one encounter, one of the devs forgets to equip his shields and he gets absolutely destroyed, and then he comes back with his shield on and then he can take a few hits much easier. So the trinity and basic combat mechanics you expect in any MMO seems to already be functioning. We also got a glimpse of several raid bosses available in the game, and they didn't look too complex, so there's still some concerns there, but I feel like that's not something you need to work on until the later stages of development, and I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt given all the rest of the things that we've already seen so far this early on. Now lastly, we want to look at the PvP systems. They are promising a lot in the way of the PvP systems in terms of castle sieges and node battles and things like that. And on this front, we haven't really seen much outside of the apocalypse, We've seen what it looks like when a caravan is raided and destroyed, and how the loot that was being transported just pops out, but there's no saying that this is the final form of this. It's basically a work in progress. And we've also kind of seen what it looks like when groups fight over caravans, but of course they're fighting the GMs, and the GMs are cheating and using broken power, so we can't really get a feel of what PvP is actually going to look like quite yet. Keep in mind they're not even into Alpha 1 yet, and they've been regularly showing us more and more content every month, so I imagine it's only a matter of time before we get some sort of glimpse into what that PvP combat is going to look like using their Ashes of Creation systems. So all in all, when you see all that they are promising slowly coming to life alongside their constant updates on optimizing things in their large world, my heart is slowly beginning to heal, and I am going to be covering MMORPG content again. Mainly Ashes of Creation content if I can help it, but since it's so far out, I might dip into some other games like Elion or New World to pass the time. And to the guys at Intrepid, you have promised everything the MMO community has been asking for. Literally all you guys have to do is not break our achy breaky hearts. So please, please don't achy break our hearts. Until next time, I am booping out. Boop.